Dear God, there were nights when I spoke to you not with faith, but with anger. Nights when my prayers were not gentle words of devotion, but broken questions whispered into the darkness. I remember sitting alone, looking up, and asking you something I was almost afraid to ask. Why me? Why did my life have to carry so much weight? Why did sorrow seem to know my address so well? I watched other people move through life with laughter that came easily. Their days seemed lighter, their paths smoother, their burdens smaller. And I could not help but wonder if I had done something wrong. Was I being punished for mistakes I didn't even understand? Was my suffering part of some lesson I was too blind to see? There were moments when I felt forgotten by you. Moments when the silence after my prayers felt louder than any answer. I would speak your name and wait. But the world stayed quiet. And in that quiet, my heart filled with questions. Why does every time I try to rebuild my life, another storm arrives to tear it down again? Why do I keep losing things I try so hard to hold on to? Why does it feel like joy visits me only briefly, while pain seems to stay for years? I will not pretend I was always patient with you. Sometimes I was angry, not the kind of anger that turns away, but the kind that looks up and demands to be heard. I argued with you in my prayers. I asked you if you could even see what I was going through, if you understood how heavy some days felt. And yet, even in those moments of anger, I never truly walked away from you. That is something I only understand now. Because even when my words were filled with frustration, I was still talking to you. Somewhere inside all that pain, there was still a small voice in my heart hopping you were listening. Maybe that was faith too. Not perfect faith, but the kind that survives even when it is wounded. When I look back now at the roads I have walked, I see something I could not see while I was living through them. I see how many times I thought I would break, and yet somehow I didn't. There were days when the weight of life felt unbearable, days when I thought I had reached the end of my strength. But somehow, the next morning still came, and I was still here, still breathing, still moving forward, even if it was only one small step at a time. Maybe that strength was never mine alone. Maybe you were there in ways I didn't recognize, not removing the storms, but standing beside me while I walked through them. Today, my questions have not completely disappeared. There are still things about my life I do not understand. There are still scars in my heart that remind me of the battles I fought. But something inside me has changed. The anger has softened. The questions are no longer accusations. They are conversations. And I realize now that love for you was never destroyed by my doubts. If anything, it survived them, because only someone who believes deeply would dare to ask you such honest questions. So today, this letter is not just about the pain I carried. It is also about the gratitude I slowly learned to feel. Thank you for the strength I discovered in my weakest moments. Thank you for the mornings that came after nights I thought would never end. Thank you for not abandoning me even when I felt abandoned, and thank you for listening, even to the prayers that sounded more like anger than faith. If you are still listening now, then hear this part clearly. I may still question you sometimes. I may still struggle to understand your plans, but I have not stopped believing that you are there. And maybe that quiet belief is the miracle that carried me this far. With all my questions, all my scars, and all the love my imperfect heart can offer. Thank you, God, for staying with me, even when I was too hurt to see you.